Welcome to One on One with the Grim One. I am your host, the Slayer of Posers, Master of Disaster, the most electrifying man in corpse entertainment, the Necrosexual.
Fuck yeah, man.
Shut up.
Thanks for having me, brother.
And joining me on the West Coast, the Master of Necrot. We have a dangerous meeting of fellow-minded Necros today. Thank you for joining me, Luca from Necrot.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, with our names, this was clearly destined for this meeting of twisted minds to occur.
Let's twist these fucking minds, man. I'm ready.
So this is One-on-One with the Grim One, and what that means is every episode, my special guest selects one album that holds a dark place in their hearts. So, Luca, tell me about the album you've selected to discuss.
Well, for me, I selected Human by Death. And it is probably my favorite death metal album. Is the album that really got me close to the death metal music in a way that I was never able almost before, because it's like I really fell for that album, and it's like for not only for the music but also for the lyrics. I feel like it's a great representation of the human struggle, and I just fucking love it. And it's like you find comfort into listening to the albums that you love, especially the ones that have meaning for you, because you can relate to a lot of the lyrics, and we've all been there. Like songs like Secret Phase, who has not got tricked before by some motherfucker in his past that was absolutely false. And it's like the navigation of life through this maze of lies and deceives. And it's talks about making yourself vulnerable, which is what you have to do every time you trust anything or anyone. So it's I just love the fucking album, man. I think there is some in-depth real concepts and about humanity, and I think that the music is outstanding and unbelievable. And it's a really technical album, which is not necessarily what I usually cherish the most. But it's in this case, to me, it's something to look up to. You know what I mean? It's a fucking masterpiece. To me, it's a masterpiece. It's something undoubtedly, whatever the fuck that word is, it's fucking beautiful. You know what I mean? And to me, it's you look at something like that, and to me, that's what you want to aspire to create one day as an artist, kind of. Something that have that kind of impact. To
Indeed.
that album have that impact on me and many other fucking people, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is certainly the creme de la creme, or should I say maybe the creme de la grim of death metal albums. And you talked about it being a record that's brought you a lot of comfort. And sure enough, it's also brought me and my family a lot of comfort. My grandmother loves the song Suicide Machine, for instance.
That's awesome.
Nana loves death. And fellow paisan drinking your espresso right there. I love it.
Mm-hmm. It's not espresso, man. I'm getting drunk.
Hell yes. Even better. The best of both worlds. So tell me, Luca, what was the first time you heard the album Human by Death like? Do you remember where you were, what you were doing?
I think it was I think it was in my friend's car. And I put it on and I liked it immediately, but and then I got the CD myself, and one thing that I was really upset is that album is kind of quiet. It's on the quieter, side of production. Now it has been remastered and re-released recently, a few years ago, but not. But the first original album was mastered, is very compressed. What is crazy to me is that is all the things that have been done on that album, I would never fucking do it for my albums. Is somewhat really far and still really close to what I like, because it's the sound is very compressed. The guitars are very digital sounding almost. You know what I mean? It's it's a sound that I wouldn't even go for, but it works perfectly for what they're doing. But yeah, I remember listening to it the first time. If I'm not wrong, it was in this friend of mine car that was playing the CD, and I was whoa, what is it? And then whatnot. That's how I got into it. And then I got into reading the lyrics. And then this other friend of mine, Lorenzo, that we were really good friends growing up, he's like, he had like this basement. He was renting this basement. He turned it into a practice space where he was recording all kind of weird black metal one-man band project. We used to practice there with our band at the time and whatnot. And we were both so into that album. And we were also so into so much other shit, but like we would actually like, you know, talk about the songs and text about the lyrics or refer to something that happened to us in our life with a song. You know what I mean? So it's like it becomes something like very personal beyond just like buying a record, listening to it and be like, oh, this record is cool, I love it. It's like it's actually something that you refer your life to. You know what I mean?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Adds a lot of context. Mm-hmm. And are you really a metalhead if you haven't had some sort of heavy metal, black metal basement where a one-man black metal project is at one point or another in your life?
It was great. It was great times, man. And like the place was in the center of the city. And like we had to pee in bottles because there was nowhere to pee. You had to go out and pee on the street, but you're on the center. It's like you could do it at night. But it's like also the fact that you were in the center is like nobody would let you in just to use the bathroom because you're like, you know what I mean? Where in downtown, there's a lot of people, you know, and they can't just let anybody fucking get into the shops and go to the bathroom or whatever. So it's like, I remember that. I remember once this friend of ours, Shadi, that was the drummer of this other band that they had called Noya, which I would sometimes go and just watch him practice. You know what I mean? I would just sit down with my drink or whatever and just watch him practice. And like, I remember once he took a big chug of pee, old pee, like a bottle where multiple people had peed in, and it took like it was really hot in there. He was playing, he stopped, he grabbed this bottle, took a big chug, and it made me throw up. Wow. But that happened. It was
totally brutal.
Totally. I mean, shit, once they broke into the place and stole our amps, and then we were going around city trying to find it back. It was great days, man. But like, you know, these guys.
Did you try to get your amps back by threatening them with bottles of piss?
No, we got like they found like him and this other guy Shadi. They ended up actually finding some guys selling them like in the junkie part of town. Wow. They were selling them for like $50 or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's like without even knowing what they are. So like they were able to get some back. Because they were going around like, you know, with bats and stuff. So like they scared the guys away and got their some of the stuff back.
Yeah. I actually had an apartment get burglarized in 2010. And as you can see behind me, I have a Spectre bass, and that bass was stolen from my apartment. And
you found it back?
I found it at a pawn shop next to a cheesesteak place in Philadelphia on South Street.
That's awesome.
Which is like a tourist spot. But the guy knew back. Yeah, the guy knew right away because I was like, dude, you're selling stolen shit. So he gave it back to me.
Oh, right on. That's cool of him.
Yeah, and then I remember blasting the solo for Lucretia by Megadeth as I drove home with my bass back in my car. So it was pretty righteous. But as you were saying before, in terms of your old practice space and pissing in bottles, sounds like you were living primitive ways, to put it in death terms.
Well, it was 2005 or even, so it's like, we were kids, you know what I mean? We didn't give a shit. Also, we were drunk all the time.
Rock and roll,
which is like, I mean, but that's like, you know, growing up. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, then you become like an adult and you're like, okay, I can drink socially, whatnot. But like when you're, you know, 17, 18, and you're just practicing and stuff, we were always drinking way too much.
You either become an adult or you become an alcoholic, either way.
Right, so. Totally. And then you're like, you know what I mean? I got to kind of choose. But like it was great, and like we both loved that album so much, and I feel like that have helped kind of like instigating the love for it into each other just by like playing it all the time and talking about it and all of that.
One thing about Death is that it's certainly thinking man's heavy metal or extreme metal. What I like about their early albums is they capture that classic old school death metal sound. And then with Human, it's kind of at the perfect middle because it has some of that earlier brutality, and then it also has the progressive elements of what would come. But I think it strikes that balance the most. And I think
it's right. The perfect moment in between their styles.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's like, in a way, it's true. It's like, you know, even just, it's like, who knows what Chuck would have kept doing if he would have not died. Probably right now, who knows that if he would even be playing metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he might be playing Manowar by now.
Who knows? But like, yeah, I feel like he was constantly changing or, you know, evolving or however you want to, whatever adjective you want to use. But like, he was always like progressing or changing his style. Even his vocals sound different from an album to another.
Yeah. Yeah, the sound
It's
of
like
Perseverance sounds like a different vocalist altogether. I don't know if he changed his technique or if he just blew his voice out, which I can certainly relate to.
totally. And I mean, initially it was like, you know, very raw and punk. And like, I mean, Chris Reifert from Autopsy was playing with Chuck in Florida, or yes, or was it Chuck coming over here in the Bay? I don't know, but like they were playing together the whole before Death and Manta's period. Oh,
yeah,
but yeah,
Mantis.
I mean, it's like that shit was like, you know, it was way more Scream Bloody Gore style. I mean, that's what that came out from. You know what I mean?
It's the original like, gruesome twosome right there.
So it's like, right, totally. So it's like, that's how it started. So it's like, that's what they really, and it's like, it was close to the same time that Possessed was doing similar shit.
Real quick, what do you think the first death metal band is? I always have said, you know, Possessed, for the same reason that they have a song called death metal. The same reason I think Venom is the first black metal band, because they coined the term black metal. But
I think what was, I think what's important about both bands, I think, yes, Possessed came first. I think so, because it's like, they did came first. But I also know that those guys were all in contact. You know what I mean? Because like there was a few bands doing that shit. Or like, you know what I mean? Like literally like 3. So it's like, they all fucking knew each other. You know what I mean? I think that's what Death and then the Florida scene brought to death metal, is a way wider, you know what I mean, spectrum of shit that they brought into the genres. You know, from bands like, you know, everybody was moving to Tampa to play death metal. And like, I think that like they're both equally important. Even if Possessed came before, and I think we can recognize that to them forever, we can also recognize to the Florida death metal scene that came, you know, kind of like close to the same time and or a little later. You know what I mean? And especially Chuck is like, you know, we kind of owe him to like, you know, expanding the genre a lot and like, I don't know, becoming like, a lot of them call him the godfather of metal. And also it's like, he died, so people get amplified when they died. So it's like, I take in consideration all perspectives, you know what I mean? But I think that the band like Possessed with 7 churches, and yeah, I think is like, you know, so important and crucial for death metal. But at the same time, I also think that Death and Chuck Schuldiner were like crucial and essential and important for death metal as well, even if eventually they came a little later or not. It's like, I think that's pointless to even talk about that. They were all fucking amazing, and we have to owe gratitude to them. You know what I mean? The same way we owe gratitude to fucking Venom. The same way they all, you know, these bands that like fucking made metal music evolved. You know what I mean?
Indeed, essential riffs to give thanks to. And it's also mind-blowing. If you listen to music from 1980, like Welcome to Hell by Venom, and you listen to that from 1980 to 1990, there was so much evolution that happened in a decade. It's kind of hard to fathom sometimes, which is how much
totally
could happen sonically in 10 years.
Totally. And to me, it's like, is important to look at the past and respect it. And it's also important to concentrate on the future of metal. You know what I mean? Because it's like sometimes we focus a lot on what happened before and miss out on amazing bands that are happening right now. Because like right now, the amount of bands that exist is insane.
Yeah.
There is so much. There is so fucking much, and it's great. You know what I mean? And there is so many good bands, great bands, that they're like, you really have to like, you know, go find them, because it's like, you know, even the fact that people is like the internet, I feel like the internet is getting everything more accessible, but society is getting more disconnected. And like, you know, we have available everything all the time. You can go on the internet and find any song from any fucking band if you really look for it, if you want to listen to it. And it's like, but at the same time, it's like people are way more disconnected because they're like so used to get everything they want immediately. People are spoiled. And like they don't share, and like they don't give that much importance to the items they have or to what they discover as much as they used to before.
Yeah.
Before like, you will find something, you'll be so excited that eventually you fucking talk to your friend about it and you get him into it too. Now it's like you find something and you listen 3 minutes out of a 5-minute song and you skip to find something else.
Yeah. It's, information
It's
overload. And sometimes
information overload and like lack of focus. People are like, me too, the attention span is getting shorter and shorter for people, who fucking sits down and listen to a whole record. You know what I mean? People like me.
A lack of comprehension, you could say.
Maybe. There you go.
Yeah.
People like me and you maybe sit down, listen to the whole fucking thing. But because we have been used to do it. You know what I mean? New kids, they're not used to that. They're used to listen to a mix of a playlist on Spotify. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think that's why grindcore is really catching on with a lot of the young people today too, because the songs are 30 seconds. So it's like the musical equivalent of a TikTok video.
Totally. And it's like we lose the magic, man, because it's like when I was younger, like, I had the fucking CD booklet of the fucking CD of the band that I love with the lyrics, and I'm reading it and looking at it, whatever. If I lose it, if I couldn't find it, I would be like fucking freaking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you used to get like a different attachment to like, the things that you love.
Indeed. But the cream will hopefully always rise to the top, and there is always killer new music being cranked out. Of course, totally. I must mention Necrot, your project, and in listening to your new album that's coming out on August 28th on Tank Crime Records, Mortal, I heard a lot of death. Not so much the human influence, but there were definitely a lot of riffs that reminded me of something off the spiritual healing in the best way.
Cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely one of the influences. Like, my influences on Necrot is like tens and tens of bands. It's not like, one or two. So it's like, yes, death is definitely one of them, and it's definitely present, but you're definitely not gonna hear it sound exactly like that.
What's your favorite part of the new record?
Of the new Necrot album?
Yes.
Well, it was both the challenge, the struggle of writing it in a very short period of time, because we did write it in a very short period of time, because we kept getting offered tours and we kept hitting the road. So that's when I realized I was like, okay, I need to write these records in between tours. Like, we can't take a break. So it's like we wrote it in a short amount of time, dedicating all of my time, 100% to it every day. And like, I think it's a big step forward from Blood Offerings for many reasons. Like, the first reason is because 3 years have went by since we released Blood Offerings. And in those 3 years, we've been fucking playing all the fucking time. So it's like, we got so much tighter, we got so much better. We are more aware of what we're doing. So it's like, there is that. Also, there is like more of a like a thought behind me, like behind it for me, of like how to get the best out of the musicians I'm playing with, and try to also hear them out on like, what they needed. Because it's like, for example, Sonny Reinhardt, our guitar player, is amazing. And like, when we started Necrot, it was just me and Chad. So it's like, if you haven't noticed the first demos, they don't have any solos. They don't have any parts for, for a solo or anything like that. So then when Sonny joined, it's like, I was still writing songs like that. And then I was telling him like, hey, you gotta write a solo on this part. And he's like, it was sick, but like, the part was not eventually, like, to me, in my mind, I was always like, okay, I need to write a song that is sick without the need of a solo. You know what I mean? So it's like, I would write songs that would still not consider into its entirety, like, to write parts that eventually by themselves, they don't work. But once the solo is added, it's gonna work. So I put some mind thought on that and started writing some specific parts for Sonny to be able to express himself at his best. And he did.
One of my past interviews was with Steve Tucker from Morbid Angel, and he spoke highly of going on the road with Necrot. What was that like, touring with the death metal gods Morbid Angel?
It was amazing. It was excellent. And a lot because of him. He's a sweet fucking dude. He's great. And he's like, we got to really like connect on many levels. It was a fucking amazing tour. It was our hardest tour we have ever done because of the weather situation. It was snowing through most of the drives and tours and icy roads and whatnot, so it was really challenging. But as far as like touring with them, with Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse and Immolation for the last part of it, it was fucking beautiful, man, because we really connected. And it's like they were seeing in us them 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like we really found a true connection. You know what I mean? To the point that like Steve Tucker was going on stage every night talking great about us to the crowds. You know what I mean? It's like we hung out, we talked, we fucking played soccer together in parking lots and shit. And like they're all great guys. And Trey's a little less accessible because he's a little bit more introvert.
Seems like a spacey dude in his own right.
Sure. He's a little bit more introvert. So it's like, I had some conversations with him, but like we didn't get as close as with the other guys. And like, I don't know, Steve Tucker was really like a great fucking, like solid fucking dude, down to her, like, down to hang out with the smaller bands. And you know what I mean? It's like totally comfortable.
Yeah, talking to him on the phone, he was super stoked to talk about all sorts of metal. And that's a great attitude, especially when it's somebody who's such a successful band as Morbid Angel. So definitely
we smoked so much. We smoked a lot of weed with those
Hell
guys.
Yeah. Invocation of the smoke-filled one.
Also watching him every night is sick, dude. Them and Cannibal Corpse, like, you get to watch them like 25, 30 times in a row. It's pretty sweet.
Sounds like the stuff heavy metal hard-ons are made of.
Also, you don't get bored. You know what I mean? I can go watch Morbid Angel every night for a year. I probably won't get bored.
What's your favorite Morbid Angel song?
Ooh, maybe Suffocation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That bass solo.
Madness, man. It's like, also, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's like, I also like Steve Tucker's album for fucking sure.
The last person I interviewed was Vulture Thrust from Africa's Overthrust. They're based out of Botswana.
Okay.
And he's also a bass player and vocalist. And the album he chose to discuss was Altars of Madness. And his favorite song, same thing, Suffocation. It must be a bass player thing.
Oh shit. Maybe it is, man. Yeah. Maybe really
it's really the only Morbid Angel bass solo that I can think of off the top of my head. So maybe there's something about that to be said. And what about Death? What's your favorite Death song or Death riff?
Well, my favorite Death song, I would have to say, is either Secret Phase from Human, Together as One. Shit, I love that album, man. I love every single song on it. Yes. But yes, definitely. I think Secret Phase. I think if I had to say one, it's Secret Phase. Also because it's got one of my favorite solos, guitar solos parts ever. And it's got lyrics that I love. It's got everything. For me, that's a complete, deal for me. If someone was like, hey, do you want to buy this for $100? I'll be like, fuck, yes.
What's some of your favorite metal bands or bands in general from Italy?
From Italy. Well, it is tough for me to answer these questions for the simple reason that I haven't lived in Italy since I was 18. So it's like I have missed out on like the last 15 years. You know what I mean? Of like anything that came out and like, because like lots of Italian bands, they don't really make it to be well known here because most of them, they can figure it out to tour and whatnot. Just
too many siestas, maybe.
I think it's the economy that is way more complicated because it's like people don't have time to like indulge in their hobbies when you have to hold on to a job that if you lose, it's hard to find another. You know what I mean? You get way less leverage on like, oh, I need 2 weeks off to go on tour. Your boss is like, nope. And you're like, okay, because if you lose your job, it's hard to find another. So it's like in Italy, it's harder to have a band for many reasons. Even also like the concentration of the density of people is so much more. So it's like even finding space where to practice is really hard. There's places that rent you a space, like, that they have the equipment there and you can rent it for like a couple of hours or 2 hours and a half, but it's not really enough for like, truly develop your band with your own equipment in a place where you can go 24/7 if you want, you know what I mean?
Indeed.
Everything is a little more complicated there. Yes. But like there is great bands. I mean, it's like Forgotten Tombs is an old band that like, if you want to talk about like some older doom, death metal, whatever there was, that started in Italy. And I mean, my friend's got a band called Noia and I really like. He's my fucking buddy and like they put out some cool records. It's kind of like some darkened kind of like trashy black metal kind of shit. But they've been doing it since like 96. or
Wow.
98 or something like that. You know, they've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
That's what was going on in the basement. You know what I mean?
Ah, cool. Totally.
So it's like, if you want to check that band out, for sure. And like, but yeah, it's like I really got myself a little bit. I'm so far right now from what's going on in Italy in the metal scene, because it's like I don't have the opportunity to spend much time there, and I really haven't been there since I was like 18. So it's like lots of those bands are like new. I got to know him as much as you did. You know what I mean? From out here.
I must also commend you for being in a new video known as Metal versus Racism, in which you delivered a very simple message, which is fuck racism. Tell me about how that came to be.
Well, that came to be very simply. Is like I felt powerless, like I often do, related to like social issues, and like I felt like we needed to do something, and I felt like I know that we can't change the world as a single individual. And it's like, you know, this country is a lot based on individuals. But like, I know that we can fucking change a little bit. We can influence a little bit the community, the social circle where we live, to be more accepting people. It's like, you know, I'm an immigrant. I have lived in different places, and I travel a lot with the band or by myself. And it's like, I hardly stay for 2 months in the same place. And I've been in third world countries. I've been a lot of places. And it's like, I have experienced, and I have friends of any race, and it's like, I know the stories, and it's like, I've been in contact, and I know that racism exists everywhere. I know that racism is something that we are born with, that we have to work with to heal and change. So it's like, I wanted to find a breakthrough into my most close community, which is the metal circle. And I just simply created an email where to receive the videos. And I started sending some messages to like people that I knew from bands that we've toured with, or I just know. And like, I told them to, if they wanted to help participate, and if they wanted to, like, you know, get more people involved and spread the word. And that just came very naturally. And like Scotty at 10 Crimes, my brother at the record label, he's got like a friend that can edit all the videos, and he does it for free because he's like, you know, he believes in it. So it's like, it's a very organic process. It's like, it started, and like, even the moment it started, is like, we have always told people like, please participate, and please bring in new ideas, bring in new concepts. And like, we don't want to be the leaders of this. We want to share this with everybody and make it something that the metal community can shape itself. I mean, ultimately, the goal of the project still is to give the voice directly to people of color. And that's what we did today, posting the first of the videos that they're called Pass the Mic, where we actually pass the mic to people of color from the metal community to explain their point of view and tell their experiences. And because that's the most direct way to learn for anybody. Unless you think you already know everything, the best way to learn is to listen, and is to listen the stories of the people directly involved. So it's like, basically it's like this small plan that we had behind it was like, let's create some audience through the connections that we have with well-known metal musicians from touring all the fucking time, all these people that we have met, so that we can create some kind of like viral or whatnot, some kind of like attention, some kind of, you know, few thousand people. Like, you know, lots of our bands have few thousand followers. You put together like, you know, 20 people from band sharing stuff, you can get to like, you know, 50,000 people. And it's like, you know, so we included initially a donation button so that people could donate to the organization that they preferred. That's also another thing the Metal versus Racism we do, is like, everybody who posted, there is no social media from Metal versus Racism, like a central, this is what we do and you guys share it. It's like, everybody gets a link to download the video and post it however they want, and capture it however they want, and link the donation benefit they want to link. And it's like, I think it's a very organic way to participate into like, you know, opening people's eyes on the fact that racism is everywhere, and that there is a lot that we can work to make it a little better. I don't have the, you know, I don't think we can change the world in a day from another, but we can start working on it. And it's like, we had some like, you know, very incredibly positive reactions on the videos. We had 100% positive reaction from people of color. And we have had some criticism from white people that they say that we should be doing more. And I've tried and include everybody and tell them like, please bring in your ideas and we're gonna develop. You know, I mean, this is everybody's project. This is the metal community trying to bring up an issue that otherwise doesn't get talked about, because it's like, it's true. It is an issue that offends lots of people that don't understand it. You know what I mean? That they feel like, oh, these people are trying to censor metal. These metal musicians are trying to make metal a safer place musically or conceptually. When it's like, I still believe that every fucking band can talk about whatever the fuck they want. I just think that like we have a problem with microaggressions. We have a problem with black people not feeling comfortable at some shows because they're like, I don't know what crowd is gonna be there. Can I go to this show or can I not go to this show? And it's like, I know that we can help these people being heard. We can help these people being heard, and we can help these behaviors to stop. Of asking a black person, oh, you like metal? Oh, that's so unexpected. Why do you like it? You know what I mean? This is not blatant racism. This is not like a direct aggression, but it is a microaggression that makes a person feel uncomfortable in the community that he joined to find relief, like all of us did. Because we all joined the metal community because we were feeling unheard in our family, in our social circle. We were feeling like, you know, the outcast. We were feeling of having this anger, and we were feeling and we find our place in the metal community. We can go to shows and have a connection with people. This is so important for keeping people out of having mental issues. You know what I mean? Having a community that accepts you. And usually the community that should accept you, where you belong, is the community where people have the same passions as you. So it's like, why I can go to every fucking show I want to and get wasted and not have to worry about a fucking thing in the world, and why my a black girl or a black dude or a black trans dude or a black gay dude have to feel uncomfortable going into the community that should be accepting them, because we're all fucking metalheads in the metal community. And it's like, I think that yes, the problem of racism and microaggression and prejudice is I believe that it is a subject that we need to talk about, because I do believe that the metal community, and I've traveled, I played hundreds of shows all over the world, and I'm telling you, it's like, in the most of the occasions, people are okay. But like, there is a lot that I have seen that I'm not okay with. And there's a lot that I have seen and I have heard that I have said something about it. But there is also a lot that I have seen and I've heard that sometimes I didn't say shit about it because I'm on tour and I'm fucking tired as fuck, and I'm not trying to have, like, you know, call out some racist asshole right in that minute. And you know what? I was wrong. I should have called them out every single time. And we all need to do that, because we're not defending, you know, some wacky ass concept of making metal some softer shit. We're not discussing that. We're discussing making metalheads of all colors and race and gender and size and whatever the fuck accepted in the metal community. Because this is for everybody. I ain't writing my songs just for the white people or for the skinny people or for the straight people. You know what I mean? It's like, people need to talk about it without being afraid, and it's like, it does not need to be a major issue to talk about it. You know what I mean? I know that there is other scenarios of society where the black people are way more discriminated. They're getting murdered. We have a racist fucking society that has been perpetuating racism, and they are perpetuating like slavery through the prison system. So it's like, I know there is avenues of the world that are way more intolerant than the metal scene, but that doesn't mean we don't need to talk about it.
Yes, and once again, I salute you for one, saying it better than I could have, and for raising your voice and saying fuck racists. It's a simple message.
Absolutely, it is fucking simple, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it is. We're not talking about the metal community. It is a community that is not used to have political talks, but this is not a political talks.
Yeah,
this is about defending.
Politics,
this is about defending our scene. This is defending what the metal community is about. It's about including everybody and make people feel safe. Because people that got to the metal community is because they were rejected. by society. They were not feel comfortable in their family. They ended up listening to like this heavy fucking music because they feel comfort in the darkness. And it's like, we need to include everybody in that. Everybody. And we need to just call out the people that makes racist jokes. We need to call out people that, like, you know, have microaggression, attitude towards people of color or minorities. Or it's just simple. It's like, we need to get used to do that. And we're not doing it because we're like for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or some shit. We're doing it for all the fucking metalheads in the world.
Indeed. And I think especially within black metal and certain extreme metal circles, there's been a lot of that sketchy shit of bands who have said, "Oh, we don't do politics, but we're just going to have some repurposed Nazi imagery on our merch."
It is a fact, you know. It is a fact.
Yeah, I'm lucky in my case. I grew up listening to bands like Creator, Sepultura, Nuclear Assault, Brutal Truth, just to name a few, that were always about equality and about supporting everybody.
I'm glad you brought it up, man.
And Luca, this has been a hellacious talk. What do you want to say to all the heavy metal hellraisers who dig Necrot that are watching at home?
Well, I want to tell them to support the small and medium bands now more than ever, because it's like it's a hard time for us. It's a hard time for everybody, but like artists as being labeled as the least essential shit in the world right now. So it's like, we're not going to get back to play shows anytime soon. And there is some pretty fucked up shit that is going on also with like Live Nations that people should be looking at.
Yeah.
Because they have a really close to monopoly over all the venues in the United States. And they're trying to sanction and make regulation. They're not trying, they just did. They made a whole bunch of new regulation that is going to make it even more uncertain and even more impossible for small and medium bands to go on tour. And who loses from this is everybody, because you are not going to get to watch those bands, because those bands are going to break up. So it's like everybody loses from this. And I think people should look into Live Nation, what they're doing, and they should 100% support their local independent venues. And they should try and do fundraisers to keep them open. And we need to work for that, because it's like they're trying, the same fucking machine that is ruining fucking everything in the world is trying to ruin the metal scene, the music scene. It's trying to ruin the music scene as far as small and medium bands goes. The only bands that are going to be able to subscribe to, like, to survive with these new regulations where you have to pay like insane amount of cuts on the merch that you sell on the road. You have to get a penalty if not enough people show up because of coronavirus. You get a double penalty where you owe them back double your guarantee if these other it's like they're making it really impossible. It's like only the huge bands can guarantee, you know what I mean, that a huge amount of time people will show up at their show during these difficult times. And those are the bands that are gonna keep surviving. They're the bands that they're already working with the corporations. And like, I just feel like people needs to really open their eyes on so many things that are wrong and they're going wrong, and be really careful, because it's like with the pandemic, lots of small businesses are shutting down and they're not able to survive, and lots of the corporations are gonna buy them off and take everything. And they do not give a shit about us. They don't give a shit about the music business. They don't give a shit about like the musicians and the people that comes to shows and people that want to see shows without having to pay like, you know, an insane amount of fees, and then get to the show and like, fuck, you can't even watch the band that you wanted to watch because the band ain't big enough to make it and to survive on the road, because, you know, Live Nation or whoever corporation of the fucking moment is trying to ruin everything for everybody as fucking usual. So yeah, support the small, medium bands, support the DIY, whoever is doing things by themselves, support the local venues that are risking to close. Start doing something for the local venues to make sure that when the pandemic is over, we can all go back to watch shows in the venues that we're used to, and they're not completely changed from a day to another, that you go there and instead of seeing the usual faces, now is owned by a corporation and their schedule has changed because they only can book certain bands.
Go out and support your favorite non-Live Nation venue, so they don't get bought out by corporations and have to cancel all their metal shows for disco night or whatever the hell they're trying to push with the kids these days.
I mean, it's not even disco night, man. They're just trying to make it like all the responsibility of shit going wrong on the bands that already like, we risk our life to go on tour for 45 days in a row, playing every night, driving on any condition, on various little sleep. Like, this is a life choice we made, and they're trying to make it even harder, impossible for us to do it. I want to show you something before we leave. This is an original copy.
Wow, look at that.
Yes, this is the most I have ever spent on an album, and I spent like $100 for it, and it's like, anyway, it is always beautiful to hold it in my hands and like fucking listen to it, man. It's like
I'm wearing the t-shirt too. You're
piece of my
brand.
heart. Oh, I mean, I have a t-shirt on my skin about this album.
Oh wow, it's a human on a human. Look at that.
There you go. I got a human on a human on this side, and then I got a human on this other side.
Oh, that must have felt real good to get right there.
It was nice, man.
Totally brutal. Well, Luca, thanks a lot. I appreciate you for taking the time to talk to the Necrosexual. Stay brutal. Keep it Necrot. And you guys can listen to Necrot's new album, Mortal, on August 28th via Tank Crimes Records. Thanks
Absolutely.
a lot, Luca.
Oh, and if I might, on July 3rd, we're dropping some new variants of the LPs on our Bandcamp page. If anybody wants to grab one of those, it'll be July 3rd on necrot.bandcamp.com. Thank you for letting me throw that in there.